What's going on, y'all? Fabian Speaks, man. We are back with a video, man. We're doing a reaction to CBN News, man. We're reacting to Putin's crackdown. So supposedly, this is in relation to some Christian world news. We're just going to go ahead and hop right in and see what they got to say.
A Christian ministry in Russia has been targeted by the Putin regime. Mission Eurasia trains, equips, and mobilizes Christians in the former Soviet Union for ministry. Activities include children's ministries, humanitarian outreach, and scripture and literature distribution. Now the Russian government has designated it an undesirable foreign mission group, accusing it of promoting outside influences inside Russia. Russian agents are going after ministry contacts and partners who can face criminal charges for their connection to the ministry. Joining us now is Sergei Rakuba, president of Mission Eurasia. I have traveled with Sergei and his team reporting on the work of this ministry for decades. Sergei, great to have you back on the broadcast. Tell us what's happening to the Russian Christian leaders, churches, schools, and other ministries who have partnered with you guys at Mission Eurasia.
George, thank you so much again for the opportunity, and great to be on your show. Always grateful to CBN for covering what's happening in the Christian world, but especially in the region where Mission Eurasia is involved in ministry, equipping the church to be stronger, to continue spreading the gospel despite all the circumstances there. Just in the recent months, Mission Eurasia was officially declared as an undesirable organization in Russia. It means we bring influence that Russia wants to control and wants to protect Russian people from. And what's happening now, so that after we were added to that list, and it's not a short list, we are number 352, and there are quite a few others, organizations like Child Evangelism Fellowship following us not far behind. So after that declaration or announcement that Mission Eurasia is not a desirable organization anymore in Russia, churches, seminaries, national Bible schools, pastors, Christian leaders can face serious consequences, criminal consequences, simply for just simple reason for possessing or using our materials. And we publish.
Okay, so it's not just this Christian group. They're saying any relation to any of the materials they've used or distributed, you could be held in contempt for, essentially. That's crazy. They must be making a very unique impact. At first, I thought he was relating it to any association with Christianity, but
Published hundreds of thousands of Bibles, New Testaments, training materials, and the agents now go and they check on Christian bookstores. They go to seminary libraries. They go to Bible classes. They go to offices. And if they find a book labeled that it was published by Mission Eurasia, if it has our logo on it,
Mission
of
Eurasia.
course, people have the consequences, and get punished. Even top leaders, denominational leaders, are not exception from this.
And Sergei, Sergei, when you said that you are among a list of over 300 organizations on that list, are those all evangelical Christian organizations?
No, those 350 plus are not necessarily evangelical organizations. They can be political organizations. They foreign groups that are involved in Russia. And to a certain, standard, they are not desirable in Russia, and the Russian government decides that. But we're not political organization. We are not building a political party. We're not building political influence. We are there to help the national church to spread the gospel and reach to Russian people with the gospel, to help Russian people to know the Bible truth.
And that's the thing right there, right? They mentioned in the beginning of the video that they had external relationships, maybe other countries, so to speak, relationships outside of Russia. So, of course, Russian political heads are going to see that as an imminent threat, right? Russia's in a very high political controversy right now. Obviously, there's still the war going on. So with that being said, everything is on 10 in relation to Russia. So I'm sure anything from political, relational, I don't know, Russian humanitarian standpoint, anything to do with their economy or anything Russian in general is heavily monitored and heavily controlled and just on a tightrope, if that even makes sense, right? I think that when you're on the large stage in terms of the world, obviously a war, so to speak, things that gain international attention, you're already put at a very vulnerable position to where I'm sure home base is being kept under very tight wraps, if that makes sense. So with that being said, any external Russians there's always been the stories about their spies and, espionage, whatever it may be. They're very slick in terms of like recon and things of that sort. But I'm not surprised at the fact that if you have a group, call it a religious group, call it a Christian group, that's gaining influence to the aspect of maybe they're doing some international travel, building international foreign relationships, that could be seen as a threat to Russia, to Mother Russia. So it's funny how he mentioned that they're not a political group, but look at all the groups that were on this hate list, so to speak. Some political groups, it sounds like hate groups are on there. And that's what the powers that be will do. They'll allocate you to silence you. They'll put you along the list of these groups that have little to nothing to do, obviously, with Christianity, the mission of this group, preaching the gospel, right? But they just funnel them in, or they'll silo them over here just to silence them, to shut down anything they have going on. But me personally, I think that it's a larger battle at hand. It's not even specific to them. It's not a personal thing, right? It's the message that's being pushed. But let's kind of continue on.
So, and that's unfortunately, so that seems like Russian government, I don't know if the Orthodox Church is behind this decision, but they see us as
A threat.
Destructive influence or as not desirable influence in Russia. And controlling this segment, Russian government added us to that list, declaring us as undesirable organization, foreign organization.
Sergey, what does that say about Russia today, the state of religious freedom, when it looks at a Christian organization like yourself as an undesirable organization? What do you think that says about the Russian government?
I think the motives, and Russia has been doing this for a while now, so that the Russian government increasingly views independent organization with Western connection as a threat, especially religious organizations. It's a, threat to the monopoly of the Russian Orthodox Church. Evangelical Christians with international relationships are especially vulnerable. And when the Russian...
You see that? Evangelical Christians with international relationships. That's what it is. To me personally, the biggest takeaway is the international relationships that could be formed through this religious group, right? That's what they'll claim and call it. And like I said, Russia's been very secretive about a lot of their government work, anything that goes on beyond that. Of course, like known to be very heavy in spy work, secret agent work. You know what I mean? So it's just a given that they're probably going to take any parameters or precautions to have that no information, right, is being spread across other world leaders. Like nothing is slipping through the cracks in terms of their government and their political regime. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing for me, because obviously these guys don't have any nuclear weapons. It's not like these guys are seen as a war threat. Like what else could it be? But beyond that, right, that's the point of Christianity. That's the point of the gospel. It's going to travel, right? If they're making international connections, Christianity is an international belief. It's an international, what people call religion. People follow. Christ is global, right? So with that being said, you're going to have international connection, but of course, Russia's going to go to the extreme of not seeing it just as obviously preaching the gospel, building relationships. It's more or less that you don't know. And honest enough, the reality is we live in a day and age to where anything can be sabotaged or manipulated. And religion is one of the things at the top of the list that has been manipulated. So no knock to that.
Wants to control issues of
There's an
faith.
understanding to
They
that.
want to control the life of all people in Russia. So issues of religious freedom there, it's a huge concern. There are people of faith are in prisons in Russia today. And so that's, I think, so that's what the main reason
Yeah.
that the Russian government, wants to control any foreign influence, especially religious, or so. And the government in Russia is tightening control over the segment of the societal life in Russia, and that's why our Christian work being characterized as foreign influence. So that's what's happening.
Yeah, in the last few seconds that we have, I'm curious, how are Russian evangelical believers today doing, and how can we support them in the midst of this crackdown?
George, Russian evangelical believers are under tremendous pressure, but many remain faithful. And I would encourage your followers, all who view this news segment, I would encourage them to pray for courage, for wisdom, for protection, those who remain faithful in Russia. We must be careful how not to expose people in Russia after we were declared as undesirable, because we don't want to expose them to any risk. So when the Russian government may kind of jeopardize them with criminal investigation. And I would encourage Christians outside of Russia to continue praying and speaking for religious freedom and supporting believers, people of faith in Russia, where it can be not safe for them. And that's what I want to encourage you.
Crazy work, man. Prayers out to all my fellow brothers and sisters out there, man. It's we're all on the mission, man. We're all on a kingdom mission, essentially. I mean, if you view it as such, believers are always going to be oppressed in some shape, form, or facet, whether it's in the fit. Of course, unfortunately, there's some countries to where you're actually condemned for being Christian and you're actually physically harmed, right? Nigeria, people are getting killed for being Christian. There's places in Africa. Obviously, we understand what's going on in Russia, but it's not even there. There's places in the other parts of the Middle East, right, to where people are having an awakening. People are hearkening to the Lord's voice and being condemned or, admonished for it in their home countries, in their homeland. So prayers out, motivation, encouragement. I pretty much echo everything this gentleman has just said in relation to that. We're in a spiritual battle, man. I always visit this conversation, but I'm saying that to say, and also add to the fact that once you essentially when you're picking up your cross, when you're going to bat for the Lord, right? When you step into your ministry, let's say that when you step into your ministry, you will be opposed. You will be opposed because the enemy wants to silence that, right? Deeper than the fact of Russia trying to silence this religious group due to their foreign relationships, I think obviously, and I know and understand at the spiritual level, the enemy is behind this. Right, because Russia may see it as to not have any high level or top secret documents or information that's internal being released externally by any Russian people or Russian nationalists, in conjunction to their foreign relationships. But deeper than that, at the spiritual level, this group is probably making headways in the spirit, saving souls, preaching the gospel at a capacity, at a great magnitude. You know what I mean? So this enemy is trying to silence that. At the spiritual level, it's the enemy working to silence believers. So that's what it is. You got to be able to understand things, that this ain't a game. This ain't a joke. When you face oppression, when you face fights sometimes, and obviously when you truly understand you're a child of God, when you know who you are, it's not just a regular season. It's not just, sometimes you could really be attacked by the enemy because there's light. We all carry light. There's something in you There's something that a relationship that you could build, a ministry, something you're gonna start that could have a domino effect on people turning to the Lord. So what does he try to do? He tries to oppose that. And a lot of people get dismayed. A lot of people get knocked off their pivot, to say the least, in seasons or times like that, when in actuality it's the fact that they carry something and the enemy's trying to snuff it out. This is why you can't give up. You got to keep going.
And your viewers
Thank you.
to continue
That's
praying for people in Russia.
absolutely. And thank you for bringing this to our attention. My good friend Sergei Rakuba with Mission Eurasia, doing great work, not just in Russia, but throughout the countries of the former Soviet Union. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming on the broadcast.
Thank you so much, George.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so up next, how authoritarian nations like Russia are forming an axis of aggression. And guess what? They're targeting the church. We'll have that story in a moment. Welcome back to Christian World News. The religious persecution in Russia is just one element of a growing trend of repression by authoritarian governments. Access of Aggressors is a new book from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. It highlights China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea and their growing cooperation to destabilize the U.S. and the West through economic, technological, and military domains. The book points out another practice common to these regimes. They do not tolerate Christianity, and they're working together to persecute
Crazy
the church.
work.
Samuel Benuer is a research analyst for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he joins me now for more. Access of Aggressors claims these countries don't just persecute Christians within their own borders, but they're actually coordinating with one another to target the church. Explain what they're doing.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. It's important to understand that even though these four countries have a lot of differences, one of the things they unite on, besides hating America, is hating Christianity, because it falls outside of the authoritarian model if people have faith in God more than the state. So practically, much of this comes from China and Russia and goes to North Korea.
Imagine that. Just the concept of people just resting in the Lord our God. People having confidence and more trust in the Lord than the state. That stirs people's demons. That gets people riled up to the point to where persecution is becoming a new common theme for Christianity. That's crazy work to me, man. I'm like, what's at the root of it? What's at the source? What's the reasoning? Just because you're putting your trust in God more than us, that is pure wickedry, y'all.
And Iran, just in general, China provides technology for all of these countries to surveil and suppress Christian worship. You see that most odiously in North Korea, where if you're found possessing a Bible, you and 3 generations of your family can be sent to a labor camp. China also helps North Korea by sending back North Korean refugees to North Korea to face punishment. Russia and Iran have also collaborated quite a bit on developing an ideological framework to sort of put this state first, religion last framework into international law. They call this traditional values, and they've been attempting for the past decade plus to get these traditional values to replace universal human rights, which includes religious freedom. And that is one of the ways they seek to legitimize repressing Christian worship.
Sounds like the brink of the one world religion to me. Controlling your religious belief, man. We're just at the brink of it, y'all. I'm telling y'all, man. I'm telling y'all. This isn't a joke. This isn't a game. But of course, those who have the veil covering their eyes have no understanding of what's happening. And we may be at the beginning stages of it. And a lot of this may snowball fairly quickly. Just in terms of revelation, a lot of understanding of what's to come. You know, the world or the earth essentially deteriorating, right? But this is just to hear it echoed, it just stirs something within me, man. It obviously doesn't sit right. It's just clear as day, you can see whose hand is behind it, right? And you question and you wonder why Christianity is the sole religion that's opposed so much, because it's the truth. Point blank, period. It's not rocket science. So if you really took time and maybe just the skeptic, the average believer, or, maybe call him the atheist, to really look at the playing field of belief system and why Christianity is the most persecuted, why it's the most hated, why it's the most admonished, wouldn't that make you kind of question there's got to be something to it? It's got the it catches the most flack because it is the truth. Jesus Christ is the truth. Period. It's going to be a rude awakening for those who come to that realization in the way that obviously the Lord wouldn't want for them, right? But in today's day and age, they try to just skim over it. They try to just make you feel like, or make you think that you're the outsider, man. Why you think you believe in that? Don't put your guns down. Don't backpedal. Don't retreat now. You have to stay spiritually sound and resilient more than ever before, because now it's getting to the point where they're going to try you on your belief system. They're going to try to expose you. Oh, you're a Christian? We already have people getting persecuted, people getting killed, people getting hung, people getting decapitated just for believing in Christianity, for accepting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Even as it's likened to where people are trying to debunk the fact that Christ rose from the dead, or that, Jesus Christ was God's son, that he was the Lord, God in flesh, to where the disciples were willing to die. The disciples were willing to die over this. A lot of them got killed over the belief in Jesus Christ. Right? People are losing lives over it. That's something very serious. And on a spiritual plane, that's something very evil, to where the enemy is going to that extreme to silence, to try to eradicate. That's not just normality. So I'm saying, like, people should look at that and kind of perceive that if you have some type of being able to look at things beyond surface level, there's a reasoning behind all things like this, man. And likened to the disciples, right, to where people today are being persecuted just for believing. So if it's going to come to the time to where you have to renounce, people are going to try to get you to renounce your belief system. How cemented are you in your relationship, man? That's what I'm really getting at.
You talked about China and the use of their surveillance technology. You guys in the book call China the cornerstone of this access. Why is that?
Because China has built domestically probably the most sophisticated surveillance system in the world, and it's been successful enough, especially for them with their authoritarian aims, that other authoritarian governments want this technology. So one of the companies we highlight is Tiandi, which sells surveillance cameras mostly to Iran, and they've used that not only to track down Christians and send them to prisons under horrific conditions, but they've also sent this technology to Russia as well, so that they.
Oh, wow. Imagine that. They got technology now that's able to track you down, to track down a Christian, to send them off to some type of imprisonment or some type of, I don't know, to face some type of judgment or some type of, to be reprimanded in some shape, form, or facet. Think about the mark of the beast, right? That'll be a natural indicator as to who isn't playing for the other team, or who is playing for the other team, so to speak. If you don't have that mark, you probably got a drone circling your house. You probably got some type of tracking system or a device that's been implemented to know your every move. Man, demonic technologies, man. But a lot of that'll go over a lot of people's head.
They can maintain their monopoly on state power.
Yeah, we were just talking to the previous guest, Sergei Rakuba. His organization has just been designated undesirable. I'm curious, Samuel, what is the sort of common belief about Christianity in these countries, Russia, North Korea, Iran, China, that makes each of these regimes see Christianity as a threat to national security?
Let's go to the nitty-gritty. Let's get to it.
Well, there are two things that they all share, although there are a lot of different ways that they characterize these things because they have different beliefs and methods of legitimacy. But fundamentally, they see Christianity as a conduit for Western influence, one. So you'll often see the governments of these countries, Iran and China, actually all of them, very explicitly call independent Christian worship fifth column or Western-backed. In Iran, they call it Israel-backed and Zionist Christianity, and that's one method they use to criminalize.
Oh, wow. I mean, the Western civilization part is crazy work to me. Don't tie believers into the modern lunacy that the Western civilization has created, that modern Westernized culture resembles or emulates. If that's what they're seeing, it's just a piece of that puzzle. That's crazy work to me, especially since it's obviously its foundation, its origin is way before that civilization was even curated or even a thing.
It. Another is a more fundamental belief where Christianity sort of challenges authoritarianism on a broad level, which is that authoritarian governments want the state to be the ultimate power, and there can be nothing to compete with state power. And in Christianity, belief in God and belief in Jesus really subsumes that and makes it so that your ultimate faith, who you belong to, does not go to the authoritarian government.
China's President Xi Jinping is scheduled to come to the United States.
To that point, you're seen as an anarchist. You'll be seen as a rebel, right? You're going against the grain. So it's a one world. This is what I mean by the being stuck in the matrix, the system of the one mindset, the bot, the follower. It's all about massing control, sustaining control, right? If you're veering from the path and you're not walking this path with us, you're seen as a problem. If you're not with us, you're against us. That's how the states will start seeing that, which a lot of them already see that and they're currently embodying that. And I'm not sure if I already touched on this, but one thing I was going to circle back to is the fact that if you are in your ministry, right? Let's say if you're a believer, right? I don't know, you're preaching the gospel, right? You're influencing the masses, right? Politics will naturally trickle in and follow. Jesus was apolitical, but you see how what he did still stirred up the politicians. So the thing is maybe following Jesus doesn't have to be a political pursuit initially, but the light that we shine, the light that we'll cast, the works, everything beyond, it's not even just the works, but what I'm trying to say is the representation of who we are. That light will naturally have these groups, these external groups, hate groups, whatever it may be, just gravitate to you. You're still going to attract the darkness. You'll attract light, but you will attract darkness. So it will eventually still become a political play anyway. Rome was all in Jesus's business, right? Pontius Pilate, he just had to be involved because what? The people. Politics is a representation of the people. Once you're building relationships, you're bridging the gap, you're inspiring, influencing the people, politicians are going to come knocking at your door regardless. So there is no avoiding it, essentially. You can't escape it. So comment down below, man. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this. It's just crazy work, that the age we're living in. And I foresee this moving at a faster pace, increasing, right? Just more and more people being on board with, the elimination of, however you want to spin it, the capturing of Christians, the extermination of Christians, whatever it may, who knows, man. But hey, we're here for a reason. You are built for this season, for this time, for this day and age, according to God's plan. So peace, love, prosperity, man. Stay encouraged, stay motivated, stay tapped in. Just walk very closely with the Lord is all I can really say, man. Because interestingly enough, we live in a day and age today to where people are willing to sacrifice their belief systems, willing to sacrifice they're standing with the Lord just to appease the masses, to be politically correct. They'll say they believe in God, but you know, they're doing all this other stuff, or they're willing to appease people. God isn't the number one, essentially, is what I'm getting at. So it's kind of like the closeted Christian. When you're at home, it's all cool, but outside in the world, are you going to still stand on business? If people found out you was a believer, you know what I mean? Like, so comment down below, man. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this. Peace, love, prosperity. God bless. We'll see y'all in the next video. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. See y'all next time.